Yeah, so many kindness heroes. The one that sticks out the most, I would say, is my grandma. And my grandma, she is no longer with us, but she was just this beautiful soul and really made such a difference in my childhood. She was the person that showed me unconditional love and support just all the time. And what I remember the most about her was her smile. And when I was a child, there weren't as many smiles, but my grandma always showed me those smiles. Like I was searching for smiles as a child, and she would provide those smiles for me. Every time I saw her, it was like this warm hug of support. And so as the years went on, I just loved going to her house. When she suffered from dementia about 10 years ago. And I remember the last time I saw her, she kind of struggled to remember who I was, but she still had her smile with her. She still had that beautiful smile, and she was my kindness hero.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor.
And Randy McNeely, Captain Kindman. Good morning, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Randy McNeely, Captain Kindman. On this podcast, we share transformative stories of kindness because kindness delivers the love that reaches hearts and changes lives. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And just as a quick reminder, it's a big help for us to be able to get great guests and expand our kindness reach across the globe. If you'll take the time to like and subscribe to this channel if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, if you'll take just a minute to stop by and leave us a review or even give us love through some stars. Thank you so much again for joining us today, and we look forward to introducing you to our next amazing guest. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my wonderful friends. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, Captain Kindman, one of your co-hosts, joined by the amazing Dr. Elia Gourgouris, the happiness doctor, our other co-host. Elia, where are you coming to us from?
Coming from my happy place in my hometown in Greece, Gallic City. So
yeah, he's got that wonderful tan going. He's got the smile on his face. You know, he's home and happy. Well, and we are just thrilled today to have an amazing lady named Valerie Probstfeld. Now, Valerie, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
It's Probstfeld.
Probstfeld, Valerie Probstfeld.
Yes.
So sorry about that, Valerie. I just slaughtered your name. That's okay. She is an amazing healthcare provider that has a passion for motherhood. In fact, she has a book that's going to be coming out in May called To Mamas to Love. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. I'm super excited.
Well, we're excited to hear a little bit more about that today. And she's got her master's degree from Yale University, a bachelor's from Bradley University, and she's an experienced nurse practitioner, which her experience includes pediatric neurology, general pediatrics, primary care, and prevention health. A lot more we could tell you about Valerie, but you know what? I think you guys would rather hear from her than us. So we're just going to turn the time over to Valerie for just a minute. Valerie, tell us a little about yourself and why you're passionate about being a mother.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Randy and Dr. Elia. I really appreciate it. I love your podcast. And I am so passionate about motherhood because once I became a mom, I really experienced a paradigm shift in myself. Like, I thought I was going to be this A-plus mom before becoming a mom. I studied for it. I knew what I was going to do. I was going to have all the control in the world. And within 10 minutes of my baby being born, my first baby being born, she was taken to the NICU, and I didn't study for that. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I had these emotions that I didn't know I was going to experience of like fear, anger, all sorts of things. And I had the control. It was an illusion. It was taken away so quickly. So I really, through the first couple of years of motherhood, felt like I needed to discover or rediscover like what is being a mom. And through writing, through journaling, I really discovered this whole mom as a verb thing of, I can control how I love as a verb, how I to mom. I can't necessarily control what my own expectations of a mom is or what society's expectations are, but I can control my verb. Merriam-Webster defines the verb to mother as to give birth or allow one to rise, to care for or protect. And if you think about all those things, what does all that? Which is love. Like love gives birth, love allows one to rise, care, and protect. And so if I focus on that, if I could do baby steps of love over fear, I feel like that's all I can control. And every day I work on that. Like my kids are now 9, 7, and 4. And some days are easier than others, some hours are easier than others, but I'm always working on something, embracing imperfection, having self grace, and choosing love over fear when I can. And when I'm not, responding to that and just embracing the growth mindset.
That is so beautifully said. You know that parenting has a way and a beautiful way of humbling each one of us who's a parent. You
Yes.
think you're ready, you think you know, you have no idea. And the humbling happens almost instantly as soon as you bring your first baby home or before even. So
Absolutely.
I mean,
I
nothing to
really
remind
appreciate you.
yeah, that nothing to remind you about the fact that you don't have any control over it, than just seeing, those kind of things happen. Baby
Yes.
with the way to the NICU, baby taken and they're doing things, it's like, where is my baby? I just had my baby. What's going on? I can imagine what was going through your head as a mother. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
know our daughter was in the hospital with RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, and she was there for 4 days, and she's having a really hard time breathing. There was all kinds of stuff going on. They had to have her in an oxygen tent and other stuff like that, and you really don't have a lot of control, over what's going to happen there. You just have to hold on, and of course, I'm a religious guy, so we do a lot of praying and stuff like that, praying let our baby be okay, and so what you said is it really resonated with me, even though I'm not a mom. I'll never know quite what it's like to feel like being a mom or stuff like, but I know what it's like to be a dad, to be a parent. And so there's a lot of love and a lot of emotions to go into that. Now, you said something about focusing on love.
Yes.
And of course, at the Kindness Factor podcast, we believe kindness is love in action. Kindness is the way to activate that love, to ignite that love. And I want to ask you a question. Has there been a time in your life when someone, I'm sure there's been many times, but something that sticks out to you when someone stepped into the shoes of a kindness hero and extended you love in a way that impacted you and that still impacts you, that when you think about that experience, it just warms your heart? And do you have anything, experiences like that, something you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. That's a great question. I mean, yeah, so many kindness heroes. The one that sticks out the most, I would say, is my grandma. And my grandma, she is no longer with us, but she was just this beautiful soul and really made such a difference in my childhood. She was the person that showed me unconditional love and support, just all the time. And what I remember the most about her was her smile. And when I was a child, there weren't as many smiles, but my grandma always showed me those smiles. Like I was searching for smiles as a child, and she would provide those smiles for me. Every time I saw her, it was like this warm hug of support. And so as the years went on, I just loved going to her house. When she suffered from dementia about 10 years ago. And I remember the last time I saw her, she kind of struggled to remember who I was, but she still had her smile with her. She still had that beautiful smile. And she was my kindness hero. And I bring her up because when I think about generational legacies, when I think about love, I think about my grandma with my own kids. And I think about the power of a smile and how it truly can make a difference. Studies can debate like, does a smile, can you trick your brain into feeling better if you're smiling?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I love neuroscience and all that. I think that's so cool. And I think that it really started with my grandma. And when I think about her, I smile, then I feel better. And I feel like that's contagious with my kids. And so I would say she's my kindness hero. And I just love her so much.
Well, can I just say, your smile lights up the room.
Oh, thank you so much. I
It really
appreciate
does. Go ahead, Elia.
Well, I was going to say, you've had me on your podcast as a guest, and I've gotten to know you, Valerie. And ladies and gentlemen, this lady has a heart of gold. It's so big, as big as her smile. And you know, you're a nurse professionally. You're a mother of three little kids under the age of 10.
Mhm.
And I'm sure this relates to a lot of working moms or parents, but our audience have obviously a lot of women in our audience. How do you balance those two and at the same time practice kindness and compassion towards yourself? Because I know how busy you are. What fills your bucket? What do you do in terms of self-care and like kindness to self in essence?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think really a lot of it is having self grace and embracing imperfection and knowing that I don't have to be perfect. I take every kind of, at least when I'm cognizant of it. I just kind of like just try to give myself grace and support, and also showing that to my kids and knowing that when you fill your own cup up, it then you can pour that to other people. Like if you're filling your cup, it helps others. And for me, what fills my cup up is going out into nature. Like I'm in the Chicagoland
Okay.
area, and so right now it's the beginning of spring, and I just love getting outside. Even if it's winter, like I will just dress the way, like just dress with more layers or something, but try to get outside. And I involve my kids in that almost in like a double dipping type way. Like I read a book one time about how can you double dip? How can you fill your own cup, but also you can maybe include your kids on a walk. Maybe we can, my oldest daughter one time suggested trying to find hearts on a walk, and it was so much fun. Like we went and found hearts with walnuts. They have like little heart shapes, and it really like changed my perspective. But also, I was filling my cup up at the same time by exploring, getting outside. So those little things really make a difference. But also, I would say trying not to be hard on myself when I just feel like I don't know, maybe like I think now I'm like, well, maybe I just need to go to bed early tonight or do something, or like maybe tomorrow's another day. Let me put this away. And again, that takes practice. That takes so much. Feel like we all think that we need to be perfect. Moms are not moms. Like we all feel like we have to be this certain facade and, on social media or whatever that is. But I just wish we could just all be real with each other and say, you know what, it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to show that life can be hard sometimes. It can be challenging, but we can help each other through kindness, through love to get through it. And it's more enjoyable along the way, that way, in my opinion.
That's
I
so.
love embracing imperfection.
Yes.
My biggest takeaway so far from what you said is that phrase that keeps ringing in the back of my head.
Mm,
Well,
yes.
I love what you shared about double dipping. I can't help but think of my dear mother. My mom used to love when we were kids, she'd take us out on walks and point out all the flowers, the daisies, the pansies, the black-eyed Susans, the roses, the peonies, whatever it was. She pointed out to us. And then of course when we came to rose bushes, she loved roses and she taught me to love roses. She always stopped and said, let's smell the roses and learn a lesson from this. Remember in life, it's the to smell the roses. In other words, look for the things that really matter and take time to appreciate them. And so that filled her up, and at the same time she was filling us up. So I love that. It totally brought back those good memories. And I was thinking about something you said earlier about smiling and about how you're sharing that smile with your kids. And isn't it amazing how the smile of your grandmother, it's what you're doing, you're passing on generational kindness. Her smile inspired you and fills you. When you think about her smile, you feel warm, you feel happy, you think about that. And your kids, I can guarantee you, you're telling them about grandma and about her smile and about how it makes you feel. And when they think back later on, they're going to think of mom, her smile. Our last, we talked to Kevin Monroe. In fact, his podcast is going to be released today,
I
which
love
is,
it.
we talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he told us about the and yet experience, where he'd had a car accident and there was all these other things that had been going on, and yet he was standing there and he was thinking about these things. Then he looks up at the sky and he thought the words and yet came to him. And the meaning was, and yet in the midst of all these challenges, you've still got the beauty of the sky, you've still got the beauties of nature around you, you've got all these wonderful things around you, and your kids are going to be able to, at least in my thinking, later on, when they're going through a tough time, they can have an and yet experience just by thinking about your smile and your grandmother's smile. And yet I've got mom's smile to buoy me up and to cheer me on. Hello, my wonderful friends. If you could step into the shoes of a kindness hero today, would you want to? I believe that most of you would, and here's an easy way to do that. Simply watch this little video clip by Kindness Worldwide, and if it resonates, stop by their website today, www.kindnessworldwide.org, and make a donation to support their wonderful mission to bring cultures of kindness to communities throughout the world. And then feel free to share it with your friends and family. Thank you for your support.
When a wallet was returned just moments after it was lost, a purpose was found. This one act of kindness inspired the formation of the nonprofit Kindness Worldwide to create a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. Kindness Week Worldwide mobilized the entire community in York, Pennsylvania, featuring initiatives and playbook programs including blood drives, kindness cards, K-12 and college students embracing kindness, and an innovative means of community policing, kindness citations. If something so magical can happen in York, Pennsylvania, the same and other inspirations can happen anywhere and everywhere. Our Screen Scenes initiative featuring the Kindness Factor will showcase these many stories of kindness. Let's include your community among them. Kindness is the heartbeat of the world. Together, with your support, we can make all its hearts beat as one.
I love that, Randy, and I'm going to take it a step further because as you were talking to me, I had this vision of Valerie's grandkids decades from now being on some kind of podcast and being asked about who was your kindness hero, and they're like, my grandma Valerie always
She's
had
got
a
the best
smile.
smile.
The same thing you said, the best smile. That's generational, that's real legacy, right? I envisioned you, not Randy talked about your kids. I'm talking about your grandkids who have yet to be born, because the warmth of a smile, no matter how bad your day is, how difficult your day is. First of all, it's free. It doesn't cost anything. It's so quick and easy to give, but it has lasting impact. Your grandma got, towards the end of her life wasn't easy when you get Alzheimer's, dementia, and so on. And she's no longer here with you. And yet, when you talk about her, you break into a unconscious smile. You're smiling as you're telling about that story, thinking about it. And my prediction is your kids, just like Randy said, and your grandkids will do the same thing thinking about you. So keep smiling.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's so special to me, you guys. Like I truly appreciate that because so much of what I do, I mean, a lot of it started in the NICU, like I had said, but also I strive to be a transition person with generational legacies. And my grandma is the person that I strive to be. And because there is this there's the story of the monarch butterfly, and with my book that's coming out, I have like butterflies on the cover, and I just love it for so many reasons with like transformation and stuff, but also because of the way they travel, where one butterfly will travel down to the south, and then going back up north, they travel in generations. And I feel like I'm kind of this migratory generation where I'm doing something different and I'm going to do grandma's smile. Like I don't want to do because a lot of what I experienced, not with grandma, but in other parts of my childhood, was yelling, was angry faces. And I want to do the smiling. I want to do the smiling journey. And I want that to be my generational legacy. And so grandma on her grave, it says mother. That's all it says on her grave. And so
Wow.
I think it's just so beautiful, and it truly, like, she is my kindness hero, and so I'm like tearing up a bit just thinking about her because she's just such a
Okay.
beautiful person, and I think there's so much power. Like, I don't remember who had said this, like, it comes to my mind, but um, there was a lecture I was listening to about someone doing arm wrestling, and they said, think about something that makes you mad or you're frustrated, and do an arm wrestle. And they were doing it with someone where they weren't able to win, like this arm wrestle. But then they said, think about someone you love and then do the arm wrestle. And they were able to win that one. So it's just like such an
Interesting.
amazing, like, kindness, truly love, kindness. That is what matters. Smiling, all those things. Like, I think sometimes people can say, oh, that's fluff, that's weakness, but it truly is strength. And that is like so much of my mission to spread the power of that. And thank you for what you guys are doing with all of that as well.
Well,
Thank you, Valerie.
thank you very much, Valerie. Thank you for your kind words. It's interesting to me to sit and think about, what we've been talking about, generational kindness and the impact that one generation can have on the next. And I listened to a speech recently given by, I'm a big BYU football fan. I graduated from BYU, and I really am impressed with their coach, Kalani Sitake. He's a good man who yes, he's all about winning, but at the same time, he is doing everything he can to promote a culture of kindness, caring, and love within his team, within his sphere of influence, and everything he's doing. And he talked in there about how generational love can make a difference. He talked about how his experience as a child, going through his parents through a divorce, they're moving to various places, him having to try to figure out what was going on, him feeling lost, and he talked about how in the middle of all that, he was the only thing that kept him going is he was a big BYU football fan. He loved their football team and he wanted to play for BYU football, which he eventually did. But the BYU football team came to the school where he was at, and he was sitting out by himself. He didn't want to participate in anything. He was sitting out by himself. And one of the players, who happened to be his favorite player, looked over at him and said, invited him, said, to come out and join us. And as soon as he, verified that he was pointing at him, he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. No. So that player walked over to him and he said he just sat there. He froze. He's like, what's he going to say to me? Why is he coming over to talk to me? Why does he? That player bent down and talked with him for a minute. And then he just put his arms around him and gave him a hug. And he said, I love you. And God loves you. And everything is going to be okay. And he hasn't forgotten that experience. That experience has stuck with him for, he was 9 years old then, he's 40 something years old now. That experience is stuck through him. That feeling, it's that feeling of love. So I guess why I brought that up is because when you're talking about your grandmother and her smile and how that impacted you, there's a feeling of love that comes back into your heart. That feeling of love, that is the power of kindness. That is the power that kindness has to connect generations because it delivers that powerful feeling of love. And we may not remember anything that anybody has said a long time ago. I had a great teacher when I was 3 years old, and I remember nothing that she said to me, but I was in primary at church. I remember feeling loved. I remember that love. So thank you for sharing the story of your grandmother, because it's just a great example of the power of generational love, the power that it has over our hearts. She's left her fingerprints indelibly on your soul, on your heart, and you're doing the same thing, turning around with to mamas to love and to working with your kids. So that's a beautiful thing. Goodness gracious, Elia, look at the time.
I see the time. I see the time. So Valerie, a couple of things before we go to the last question is it's beautiful that you and us now collectively and our audience too, is keeping your grandma's legacy. I know she's no longer on this earth, but keeping her legacy alive. I love the fact that you're talking about her, and I don't know your grandma personally, but I think I know her a little bit through your smile. I think that's the connection. The last question we want to ask you is, what are your three pearls of wisdom? Philosophies about life, about kindness, about love, of family, and so on. What are the things that really motivate you, or words to live by, that make you successful?
Three things.
Three
Three
things.
things. Okay. Did I say one? Yeah, three things.
Okay.
Randy, up the ante. Okay.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Truly, truly appreciate it. Very special to me to talk about all these things. And I would say, for me, like I talk a lot about mental back roads and highways, where I talk, not really even, at first didn't talk about it. I just tried to practice it. Like when you're frustrated or you're anxious or you're upset, you have sometimes an habitual response. I know for me, like say we're running late, I like just have a habit to want to yell, to want to get upset, and it's that reaction. And Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus and response, there is a space, and within that space lies our growth and our freedom. And so I try to lengthen my space between reaction and response. And when I catch myself in that, oh, I'm getting frustrated right now, let me think, like of my grandma and react, or I'm sorry, and respond, and stop
Respond. Yeah.
reacting and respond. And so there's multiple ways I can do that, but I call them like mental back roads. And I have a couple, but I could think of like my top three that I use a lot. Going back to your three things of, kindness, that can be a mental back road in itself, gratitude, and mindfulness. So like I can pause, I can take that space. And if we're running late and I'm frustrated, I can say, you know what, I'm thankful that I have three kids that like they're not, they're going like in multiple directions right now. We're running late, but I'm going to miss this someday. And I'm grateful for this right now. Or I can do mindfulness and say, kind of similar of just like being in the moment, like experiencing what does my son want to show me right now? What is he playing with? Let me just pause for a moment and really see what it is that he's trying to show me of this dinosaur or whatever. And then kindness of, just thinking, James Clear, or I read it in that Atomic Habits book of, I don't, it's changing the wording of I have to I get to. And I think that really helps me, like when I feel like, how can I be kind? And kindness can either be to myself or to others, but, kind of switching that mindset of I get to right now, I get to do this. And all those type of things kind of lengthen that space and help me respond in a different way. So I would say, I don't know if that answers your question, but like those are like the top three that I would do, that I try to work on. And I'm not an expert in it by any means, but I at least try to do it in real time, and I like to share with others so we can be accountable to each other. And how am I being grateful today, or how can I be more mindful today, and let's talk about it. And so anyway, that's kind of what I do with my days, at least right now.
You know what's really impressive about what you just said now, and it's the word perspective. When you said that, I know the time will come, it's going to be different. The three little kids may cause you to be late for some appointment to go to somewhere because they're running around with high energy all over the place. But you're totally right. And the fact that you have that perspective now, the time will come, because at some point those three kids are going to become teenagers, they're going to be doing their own thing, they're going to graduate from high school, then you're going to be from 3 to 2 to 1 to empty nest. And it's beautiful that you have that perspective now. And I remember I was just hearing a talk when our kids were young, and my wife wanted the house to be kind of somewhat perfect, and it was a mess. We have boys just crazy running around. And we heard this talk that said, you know what, it's okay that it's a mess. There will come a time when your house will be, every sock will be picked up and every shoe will be in the closet and everything will be right. And there'll be silence because there'll be no kids left in the home. So enjoy the noise and, extend your response, even if it means you're going to be 5 or 10 minutes late to some appointment, because the most important thing is that the kids know that you love them and you keep smiling and supporting them. What's the best way for our audience to follow you, to DM you if they need to? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way to connect.
Thank you
To
so
connect,
much.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Truly appreciate being on the show with you guys. Love your show. And I would say the best way to get in touch with me is to go to my website, tomomistolove.com. You can access my podcast there, as well as I have my upcoming book. You can sign up to be notified when that is released in later May, as well as I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, like all the social medias. But you can access everything through my webpage, twomamistolove.com.
Thank you, Valerie, for being on our show. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank
Oh,
you so much
so
thank you for joining us today. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. And as always, we invite you as our audience to take just a couple of minutes to stop and think, what did I learn today? How is it applicable to me? What am I going to do about it? How am I going to go forth and put it into action? And as always, remember that with kindness, everybody.
Everybody wins.
absolutely.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Valerie.
It's